What if Anakin was never sent to rescue Palpatine? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. Count Dooku watches the security feed of the Invisible Hand's halls. He sees battle droids trying to hold back the advancing Jedi, but they are quickly dispatched with a few well-placed cuts. All of the fighting is localized to a single deck, where the Jedi is infiltrated. His droids have already conducted scans that confirmed everything Dooku needs to know. Obi-Wan is alone, just as he had planned. When the CIS began their assault on Coruscant, Dooku had made sure the Jedi were spread thin and kept a close watch on Skywalker, ensuring he was never able to interfere when the Chancellor was kidnapped. So when news broke, he was on the other side of the planet, unable to join the fight in time to partake in the rescue effort. Now, only one more thing is necessary to fulfill Dooku's plan. The Invisible Hand shudders violently as explosions rock the Separatist flagship while Dooku makes his way down to confront the Jedi Master. Obi-Wan stands alone in the dimly lit gunnery bay, his blue lightsaber humming. Suddenly, Dooku is upon him, advancing quickly with a series of quick thrusts. Obi-Wan steps back and braces himself, blocking each one.
Ah, Master Kenobi. Where is young Skywalker?
He had other obligations, so I'm afraid you'll only have me to entertain you today.
On the contrary, I much prefer your company, Master.
Then might I suggest surrendering? It would allow us more time to chat.
How funny. I was about to make a similar offer.
The Sith Lord's crimson blade clashes against his. Unlike his fights with Anakin, where Dooku feels increasingly out of his depth, sparring with Obi-Wan seems to energize him. There is a familiarity with this Jedi due to his similarities with Qui-Gon. He blocks an over-shoulder slash by Obi-Wan and sets it aside before countering with a sweeping strike. Each blow is calculated and deadly. Obi-Wan's movements are fluid, but Dooku's mastery of Makashi is unmatched, and he presses him further. As Obi-Wan blocks his slashes, Dooku spins, letting his cape whirl around him, then thrusts forward through it. Obi-Wan barely blocks the attack and can't halt the following kick. As he staggers, Dooku presses down on him, nearly skewering his side. Dooku doesn't respond. His focus is unwavering, but the absence of Anakin weighs on him as the fight intensifies. Dooku's strikes grow faster and more aggressive. Obi-Wan deflects as best he can, but he's outmatched. With a swift, brutal motion, Dooku disarms him, sending Obi-Wan's lightsaber skittering across the floor. Before Obi-Wan can react, Dooku raises a hand, and a surge of force energy slams him into the wall. Obi-Wan collapses, dazed and defeated.
A pity, but I will make you so much more.
As Obi-Wan struggles to rise, Dooku gestures. A pair of battle droids fire stun rounds at him and orders to move him to another ship. Dooku turns his heel and heads to the detention facility. Chancellor Palpatine watches from his seat, his face a mask of calm, but his eyebrows furrow.
Count Dooku, what is the meaning of this? Where is Skywalker?
Skywalker never arrived. Your plan, my master, is flawed. You expected too much from him.
You will continue the battle until he does. Broadcast your victory over Obi-Wan. Let the Jedi know. It will lure Skywalker out.
No. This battle has already dragged on for too long. To prolong it further will only cause suspicion. I intend to retreat while we can. There will be other chances of victory.
Fool. Victory is already within our grasp. You are simply too blind to see it.
Whose victory? Ours or yours? I will not play the fool in your games any longer. Your plan here has already failed.
He taps his wrist comm, and suddenly the restraint bolts holding Palpatine become very real and lock on. Then they unleash a powerful electric shock. The Chancellor screams out, his eyes turning hateful towards the Count before he passes out. With that, he strides away to the ship where Obi-Wan is being held, leaving Palpatine alone at the detention level. The Invisible Hand's engines roar as the ship jumps to hyperspace, along with most of the fleet, leaving the battle above Coruscant behind. The majority of the ships retreat to the CIS bases in the Outer Rim to regroup and reorganize. However, Dooku and Obi-Wan's ship heads to a different location. In a dimly lit chamber, Obi-Wan sits restrained, his mind racing. Dooku stands before him.
You're making a mistake, Dooku. The Jedi will come for me, and when they do, you will regret this.
The Jedi are blind, Kenobi, just as you are. You serve a republic that is already lost, led by a man who has manipulated us all.
What are you talking about?
The same thing on Geonosis. Darth Sidious. This battle was supposed to be the culmination of his plans, but I did not like where things were going, so I decided to change it. Did you ever figure out his identity? It is Chancellor Palpatine.
That's impossible. You're lying.
Am I? Why do you think he allowed himself to be captured? Why do you think he wanted you and Skywalker to rescue him? This was all part of his plan. A plan I no longer wish to be a part of. Ask yourself, why did he show the young Jedi so much favor?
Obi-Wan's mind races. He wants to dismiss Dooku's words as lies, but something about the Count's tone gives him pause.
If you are defying him, why are you taking me? What's your plan?
Proof. I will show you the truth. We are going to Mandalore. There you will see for yourself the depth of Palpatine's deception.
And if I still don't believe you?
Then you will die with the rest of the Jedi when the Sith rise to power.
The skies above Mandalore are ablaze with laser fire as Republic and Mandalorian forces clash in a desperate struggle. Maul had launched a desperate offensive, and his warriors committed everything to securing victory there. Now, hundreds of his super commandos rush forward and battle the Republic troops and Mandalorian resistance all across the city. The casualties are horrific on both sides as they hurry reinforcements into the battle. Yet, while his troops give everything, Maul isn't interested in victory. He sensed the winds of change and realizes something has happened to his master's plan. A change, one he can exploit. But as he summons his transport and tries to make his escape, a pair of lightsabers ignite behind him, and Ahsoka rushes after him, stopping him from making his escape. Maul raises his saber staff and parries her strikes, pushing them aside and trying to throw her back with a force push. However, Ahsoka leaps over this strike and rushes forward in a zigzag, her weapons flashing all around him as she rains down attacks. Maul grits his teeth and blocks another strike, then slams his fist into her stomach to shove her back. But when he turns towards his ship, his eyes widen as vulture droids come raining down from the sky, pouring blaster fire upon the battered ground forces. Clones and Mandalorians alike scramble for cover as droids make way for gunships and landing craft. The rest desperately launch a counterattack, firing whatever they have at them, but neither side has enough heavy weapons or the preparations. Meanwhile, the droid forces are fully prepared and soon touch down on the streets where they pour blaster fire upon the combatants. One of the ships lands a short way off, depositing Dooku, who rushes into the palace where the battle is happening. He finds Ahsoka squaring off against Maul. Though she is fast and agile, Maul has much more experience, and none of her tricks seem to set him off. He sounds his saber staff and thrusts it down where she is standing, forcing her to leap up. When he does, Maul suddenly pivots, smashing his leg against her, and throws her to the ground. He slashes where she is and forces her to squirm out of the way, yet before he can finish her off, Dooku appears, unleashing a barrage of lightning on him. The Night Brother snarls as he blocks the strike, but his eyes widen in surprise.
You? What are you doing here?
Getting answers, my friend. Young one, it seems you need assistance.
And you will help me, why?
Because your master is in trouble, and Palpatine intends to corrupt him.
Ahsoka's expression falters, and her lightsaber dips for a second, allowing Maul to rush at her. She barely halts his attack and spins out of the way as he rushes into her. Dooku curses and joins her, helping halt the attack, and thrusts at him from behind, forcing the Sith apprentice to defend from both sides. The Count advances slowly, blocking the first few strikes before riposting and grazing his side.
Why don't you tell our little friend here the truth about her master?
I already have. Anakin Skywalker, the Chosen One. Sidious has been grooming him for years to become the Sith's greatest enforcer, and yet something has happened. You're doing?
Indeed. I have thrown a wrench into these plans, but it will not be enough. There is still more work to be done, as Sidious might reclaim his power.
Who is Sidious?
Isn't it obvious? Who has been showering your master with praise, mentoring him, and sowing distrust? Who has benefited most from this war?
The Chancellor.
Indeed. Now that this matter is settled, perhaps we can work together.
Perhaps. But unfortunately, a friend of mine would rather have you dead. This is for Qui-Gon.
He springs forward and slashes his lightsaber in a wide arc that pushes Maul's weapon back. The Night Brother barely blocks the second, and they clash once again. But this battle is much more even, as Dooku's master combat techniques render him nearly untouchable. He checks each thrust and pushes it aside, following up with quick kicks and blows that throw Maul back. But Maul does not falter. Even with Ahsoka nipping at his sides, he defends himself well, blocking each attack. His training allows him to counter everything Dooku has to offer. He trained under Palpatine too, and knows all these tricks, except one. Suddenly, Dooku's hand shoots forward and a burst of electricity slams into Maul, sending him down to one knee as he struggles to defend himself. He screams in pain, and Ahsoka takes the opportunity, leaping up and driving her lightsaber into his back. The blow is too much, and Maul drops to the ground, feeling his life slipping from his body. With him dead, the Mandalorians fall into chaos while the clones are surrounded and captured. From the ship, Obi-Wan watches all of this as a probe droid records everything and sends him a live feed. By the time he is led down, the battle is over, and Dooku has Ahsoka and Rex added to his growing list of prisoners. He sits the three down and begins explaining everything to them. He tells them about the war and Palpatine's plan to create a galactic empire in order to assume control of the galaxy.
Why are you telling me this?
Because I, too, was a pawn in Sidious's game. But I have seen the error of my ways, and now I offer you a chance to stop him. For that, I shall offer something else. The clones, their inhibited chips. I was the one who ordered their creation.
What? Why?
Sidious demanded it. The chips were designed to ensure the clones' absolute loyalty to him. When the time came, he would use them to eliminate the Jedi.
Rex's breath catches. He remembers Fives, the clone who tried to warn the Jedi about the chips. He remembers the Council's dismissal of his claims, their refusal to see the truth. Now it all makes sense.
You knew. You knew and you did nothing.
I was blinded by ambition, by the promise of power. But I see now that Sidious's vision for the galaxy is one of tyranny, not order. And I will not stand by while he destroys everything. But answer me this. I was your foe. I have my reasons. But what of the Jedi and the Republic? What was their reason for not acting?
The three look at one another and find that they have no answer. The Jedi should have seen the signs and seen Palpatine's ambitions, and the Republic should have stepped in much earlier. Each one thinks back to their own experiences. Ahsoka, when she was framed and kicked out of the Jedi Order. Obi-Wan, when the Senate allowed Maul to come to power. And Rex, when they covered up the inhibitor chips. Obi-Wan and Ahsoka exchange a glance. The idea of trusting Dooku goes against everything they've been taught, but the stakes are too high to ignore. If what he says is true, the entire galaxy is at risk.
What do you propose?
My actions have delayed the Chancellor's plans. For the moment, he remains in captivity, but we must act quickly. He will try to rework his plan somehow.
The trio slips away into the shadows, their alliance fragile but resolute. Their mission is clear, to confront Palpatine, expose his lies, and save Anakin from the darkness. But as they set their plan into motion, one question lingers in Ahsoka's mind. Can Anakin still be saved, or has he already fallen too far? With Palpatine missing and the war reaching a critical point, the Republic scrambles to locate their chancellor. This becomes their top priority. Superseding even the Outer Rim sieges, their top leader is selected for this operation, and only one person comes to mind. Anakin Skywalker has long been a celebrated war hero and a friend of the Chancellor. It is perfectly natural for him to be given command of the search efforts. His natural leadership and tactical brilliance made him the obvious choice and led to success. His initial focus is to track down the remnants of the CIS invasion fleet and systematically destroy them, looking for the Chancellor in each scattered fleet. After half a dozen battles with no luck, he learns of the largest gathering in Utapau under the command of General Grievous. It is his first lead, and many cheer him on, but the weight of responsibility begins to take its toll. As Anakin coordinates fleets and ground forces across the galaxy, he receives troubling visions. In his dreams, he sees Obi-Wan defeated and captured by Dooku on the Invisible Hand. He sees droids wiping out the 332nd, and worst of all, he sees Ahsoka fighting off against Maul just as Dooku appears. the visions haunt him, fueling his fear and anger. All of these are secretly sent by Palpatine to urge him to further fuel his desperation and make him more determined to find the Chancellor. Battles grow more brutal, and Anakin fights harder. During these fights, he finds his anger and doubt resurfacing. He taps into these emotions and throws himself into the fight, sweeping through the battle and cutting down droids with no mercy or torturing officers for information. From there, he learns that General Grievous and his troops have him held on Utapau to use as a hostage. He wastes no time in launching a full-scale assault on the planet. His ships fire down upon the droid forces as gunships descend into the facility. He attacks ferociously as the 501st rush through the streets. Grievous has entrenched his forces for weeks, but even then they struggle to hold the lines against the ferocious attacks of the 501st. Even his droid headquarters comes under assault by artillery and air support, keeping him occupied while Anakin leads his troops from the front. He fights his way through waves of battle droids to reach the lower levels, where the prisoners are being held. Here the defenses get fiercer, as Grievous leaves his elite droid units like Magna Guards or Commando droids. But though the battle is hard fought, he at least reaches the detention facility and finds Palpatine among them.
Anakin, my boy, I knew you would come.
Are you hurt, Chancellor?
Nothing but my pride, thanks to you. But we must hurry.
As the clones secure the area, a gunship lands and the two make their way away from the battlefield. They fly off and leave the clones to finish off the battle. With the situation turning against the CIS, Grievous makes his escape. As they return to their ship, Anakin reports his success to the Jedi Council, but he's surprised by their orders, rather than have him continue to save Ahsoka and Obi-Wan as he had hoped. They order him back to Coruscant. The Jedi Council believes that Palpatine's safety is the top priority and that they can track down Dooku later. This is to prevent it from appearing that the Jedi are disloyal to the Republic and give their enemies more ammunition against them. Although Anakin reluctantly obeys these orders, Palpatine decides to pull Anakin aside and talk to him privately.
I've seen what Dooku is capable of. He has Obi-Wan, and I fear he is torturing him. And Ahsoka, she may already be lost.
Wait, how do you know that?
You are strong, Anakin. Stronger than any Jedi. But even you cannot face Dooku alone. You need power. Power that the Jedi cannot give you. I've sensed it as you began your campaign. I saw how you managed to defeat your foes. You didn't follow the Jedi's teachings. You followed your own path.
Are you saying you were Force sensitive?
In a manner of speaking, yes. And I understand power, my boy. Let me tell you, there is a way to save your friends, to bring peace to the galaxy, but it requires you to embrace a different path. I am not your enemy, Anakin. The Sith and Jedi are two sides of the same coin. Both seek to bring order to the galaxy. But the Jedi's methods are flawed. They cling to outdated ideals, blind to the true nature of power.
You're a Sith. This whole time, you've been lying to us?
I have not lied, Anakin. I have only waited for the right moment to reveal myself. Can you blame me? The Jedi are so quick to jump to conclusions, slow to act unless the matter affects them. Like with Ahsoka, the Jedi have failed you.
Anakin's mind is a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. He thinks of Obi-Wan, of Ahsoka, of Padme. He thinks of the Jedi Council, their mistrust and their rules. He thinks of the power Palpatine offers, the power to save those he loves.
What do I have to do?
The Republic fleet tears through hyperspace, its course locked onto the Mandalore system. While they travel, Palpatine begins his training with Anakin to show him the ways of the dark side, having him meditate and begin to study new fighting techniques and force abilities that were previously forbidden.
The dark side is not about restraint, my apprentice. It is about power, unfiltered, unchained. Your fear for your friends, your anger at Dooku, these are not weaknesses. They are your strength.
Anakin's fists clench. The visions of Obi-Wan and Ahsoka suffering at Dooku's hands still burn behind his eyes. For days they spend every moment not organizing the fleet on training. They fight and spar, with Palpatine studying Anakin carefully and having him learn the ways to fight without mercy. When it finally comes time for the Republic to emerge from hyperspace, Anakin takes command on the surrounding planets and moons occupied by the CIS in the Mandalore system. Turbo lasers roar, reducing droid frigates to molten debris. Anakin doesn't wait for clearance. He takes his fighter down, leading a squadron of clones in a brutal strafing run on the surface. He fights hard and ruthlessly, cutting through swaths of the droids, the dark energy surrounding him visible amidst the carnage. It is no longer a whisper. Now it roars into his ears as he breaks through the carefully organized droid defenses. This power is clear even from the video as Dooku observes the feed from the probe droids.
This is not some Jedi task force. This is Sidious. He has moved faster than I expected. We must act now. Anakin is lost to us.
No. There's still good in him. He's confused, or being manipulated. I need to talk to him.
You are hoping for a miracle, child. Nothing more. But I will launch my counterattack.
He rallies the remaining clones, the CIS forces, and even Maul's scattered warriors, all united by one goal: survival. They agree to take the fight to him. They move their forces to Concordia, where the shattered planes will make for their final battle. When the Republic forces arrive, they strike with the same ferocity as with the rest of the system. Clones march in relentlessly, burning through anything that gets in their way. They fearlessly fight through waves of droids as their experience and trust in the Chancellor pushes them forward. But this time, it isn't just droids. Mandalorians and even fellow clones fight back. Their appearance takes the 501st off guard, but they do not remain that way for long. Commander Appo calls for their advance, urging them to strike and fight back. Though they try to capture clones, the fighting is equally bloody. Meanwhile, Anakin continues to lead the charge, the dark side howling around him as he's given up the ways of the Jedi and fights like a storm, relentless and merciless. But as he cuts his way through the Mandalorians, a figure leaps out from the chaos. Dooku, with his saber in hand, a burst of lightning from his fingertips. The force of the blow sends Anakin back, but he manages to intercept it. Anakin turns to the Count and snarls, rushing forward with his lightsaber in hand. Dooku halts the attack, but feels the power in Anakin is unlike any other. He parries them and tries to push them aside, but the Jedi does not slow down. His rage fuels him and urges him forward, leaving Dooku on the defensive. The few attacks he does launch are easily thrown back. One thing becomes clear, and it is that the dark side is strong in Anakin and convinces Dooku that he must be stopped. When Anakin slashes at him again, he leans back, arcing his back from the attack, then goes on the offensive. Dooku's movements remain as refined as ever, though age slows him down slightly, and he cannot defend against these attacks. For a while he pushes the Jedi back, but never lands a meaningful blow, until Anakin lets out a powerful slash that sends the Count flying. Before he can follow up, two more shapes appear, and Ahsoka and Obi-Wan move from either side to stop him. Anakin snarls and sweeps his lightsaber wildly, trying to stop him from attacking again.
What are you doing? What has he done to you? Anakin, it isn't what you think. The Chancellor isn't who you think he is. That is where you are wrong. I know exactly what he is, and I know what Dooku is.
Enough. He cannot be saved.
That's not for you to decide.
She steps in between Anakin and Dooku, locking her lightsabers to halt his attack, and then shoves him back as she twirls her lightsabers. Anakin's eyes widen, and he lets out a shockwave that throws them back.
You're protecting him? We're trying to protect you, Anakin. This isn't who you are.
Look at what you're doing.
For the first time, Anakin hesitates. He does look around and sees clones battling with each other, the planet being bombarded. He feels the anger and the doubt in his mind, but this time he doesn't take pride in it. All he feels is shame. Dooku saw his opening. With a snarl, the Count lunges, aiming to impale Anakin through the chest, but Ahsoka intercepts, her shadow blade twisting Dooku's strike aside. Obi-Wan follows up with a force push, sending the Sith Lords sprawling. But before they can speak on this further, Palpatine laughs. He emerges from a nearby ridge. Lightning throws them back as he lands around them and sweeps his lightsabers.
How disappointing, my young apprentice. On your first test, you already falter. Let me show you how it is truly done.
He blasts lightning again, but Dooku blocks it and rushes at him. Their crimson lightsabers clash in a dazzling display that sends sparks flying all around them. When Palpatine goes for an overhead strike, Dooku catches it and locks his lightsaber in place, pushing it down. Ahsoka takes the opportunity to leap at him, spinning her lightsabers in the air, though Palpatine kicks her aside. Obi-Wan moves in from the other side, but is confronted by Palpatine's lightsaber and is forced on the defensive. Still, he buys time for Ahsoka to recover just as Dooku tries to stab at him again. However, this time, Palpatine is ready and drives low, sweeping his lightsaber in a low arc. But while he goes low, Anakin goes high and leaps up and brings his lightsaber down. Palpatine rolls aside and unleashes more lightning, but Anakin intercepts it and kicks him aside. Dooku rushes back in, coming to Skywalker's side, and the two of them rush at Palpatine in a series of quick attacks. Combined, their power is like nothing the Chancellor has ever encountered and begins to retreat from it. And when Ahsoka and Obi-Wan join in, there is no chance. Finally, they begin to score some minor injuries, and his attacks slow down. Anakin watches his falling movements and rushes in, not fueled by anger, but a sense of justice as he swings his lightsaber and cuts Palpatine down. As his body hits the ground, Dooku nods.
This would be a victory Qui-Gon would be proud of.
With Palpatine's defeat here, the clone forces surrender and are told of just what exactly they were fighting for. The news shocks the Republic, and Dooku provides mountains of evidence, showing just how deep Palpatine's actions go. Then he goes on the attack, purging members of the Senate loyal to Palpatine and ensuring a candidate who will begin negotiating for peace. This allows Dooku to remain influential in the Republic, and with the help of Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka, they form their own faction. That's our theory. The Star Wars universe is a galaxy filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey to a galaxy far, far away, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.